Thank you. Thank you. Today, here at Penn State, I'm announcing what we're calling the Better Buildings Initiative. And it's a plan to dramatically improve the energy efficiency of America's businesses over the next decade.
The building sector uses way too much primary energy compared to other sectors, and it doesn't show any significant increase in improvement of efficiency of buildings relative to the other sectors. So President Obama came in with Secretary Chu. We started first in the Renewable Energy, Sustainable Energy Research Lab, and it shows a systems approach to solar thermal and solar photovoltaic, and also to some extent wind production, on-site production of electric power and thermal storage needs of a building. Secretary Chu is quite interested in the price point of these technologies and how we can drive to those price points and what can be done to accelerate the process. We went to the Facade Experiment. We had this double-wall transparent system, which is a polycarbonate structural sheet, which is transparent but very strong on the inside. On the outside is another wall, which is the what we call the active part, and that's glass. And that glass can have solar photovoltaic cells embedded in it. We had two different kinds of coated windows. We had a clear glass and a infrared coated window. And you could see that the coated window let a lot less heat-causing light into the solar wheel. And the president commented and says, that's a pretty dramatic illustration of the effectiveness of these things for a pretty simple system. And it's that complexity of the physics and the heat transfer that makes predicting how a building's going to respond to sunlight at different times of the day on the different walls of the building accurately to size the air conditioning and the ventilation system. We don't have the sophisticated design tools they have in the automobile industry or the aircraft industry. So with the uncertainty involved, we wind up with buildings that apparently should be much more efficient, but use about the same amount of energy as if we didn't have that glass there in the first place. He got that. He understood that. And Secretary Chu was, right on with that. Then we went from there to the racking system, where you put a section of the proposed new building material or facade structure in this rack, and the rack will then vibrate the expected stress on the facade that would come from a wind load or from an earthquake load. We went from there to the green roof experiment. So the question is, how do I get that building to not absorb that heat? Well, you can paint it white. The other much more organic way is just to use the roof, put some soil and gravel and drainage system up there to actually grow plants. So the roof actually sheds a lot of the thermal energy that the soil absorbs by evaporation of the water and transpiration of water from the plants. So you have this sort of evaporative cooling process going on all day. There's some carbon fiber reinforced concrete and also different concrete composite block materials that you use for facade construction. And those are being tested in the lab for how much more stress strain resistance do they give you per reduction in unit weight. We went from that lab to the indoor air quality lab. On the way, we stopped and looked at a photograph of the immersive construction lab, which is a four-dimensional sequential display of the anticipated construction queuing of a building. So the question is, how do I ensure the air quality for the minimum amount of energy use? So that lab was basically touring the experiments we were doing to control viable particles, mold spores, viruses, and bacteria in building systems. We can test any kind of technology in that. As we learn to renovate existing buildings, and we developed the technology and the tools and put this more sophisticated technology in our buildings, it's going to create whole new job categories, whole new job types and categories, and it'll be fairly high-level jobs. So it could be a win-win. We save energy, we reduce demand on our primary energy, we save significantly on emissions, especially from electric power generation, and we create economic growth for the country.